Up next, the 2023 Weed Management Field Day was recently held out at the South Central Ag Lab, which is near Clay Center. While weeds were obviously the focus of the field day, we caught up when it comes to pests with Nebraska Extension Entomologist Bob Wright. Here's our conversation. Well, there are a lot of pests out there this time of year that we can talk about. Let's start on the corn front. What's impacting specifically corn this time of year?
Well, in July we start to see corn rootworm beetles emerge. They can feed on silks initially, and if you're in a situation, particularly seed corn or white corn or popcorn, you really want to be careful that you don't have too much silk clipping that can interfere with pollination. So that's something to watch for. We have western bean cutworm moths emerging in July, and those need to scout for the egg masses. And if you have enough, you want to spray just as the eggs are hatching, and typically as the tassels are emerging is a good time. Spider mites are showing up in some parts of the state. With this hot, dry weather, we can expect that to continue. And then to add insult to injury, we also have grasshoppers hatching out now. And so watch field borders. If you do have a lot of grasshoppers in your area, it's easier to control them when they're small and when they're outside of the field. So watch the field borders and spray before they get too big or too far into the field.
Remember, those pests obviously can impact both corn and soybeans, but for soybeans in particular, what are you watching?
Oh, the big thing I didn't mention yet is Japanese beetles are emerging, and they can also feed on corn silks, but they also feed on soybean foliage, and if they're abundant enough, along with the other soybean grasshoppers, along with other leaf-feeding insects, that's something to watch for in July.
Particularly on the grasshopper front, I think producers we've seen lack of rainfall, severe drought at this point. They might be a little more impacted. Seems like those two kind of correlate pretty hand in hand.
Well, grasshoppers do better in dry conditions. They have less diseases that affect them, and warmer temperatures speed their development. And then the plants aren't growing as well either, and so that's a factor.
What else do you want to share with us this time of year that you want producers to be out there scouting for and keeping an eye on?
Well, I guess we didn't talk about spider mites that much, but again, into July and August, that's with hot, dry weather, that's something that can develop. In corn, you want to look at the lower part of the plant for yellowing or spotting, and same thing with soybeans, but be sure to look on the other sides of the leaf to see that actually your spider mites are there, because there's other things. Drought injury, plant disease, fertility issues can also cause yellowing of the lower leaves. So you want to make sure you're dealing with spider mites and not something else.
As always, we encourage people to follow along your work at cropwatch.unl.edu. We'll give you the final word, though, this week with your final thoughts, Bob.
I guess just get ready for July to be scouting for insects. We'll probably have some in different parts of the state.
Bob Wright, UNL entomologist, joining us here on Market Journal.